When it comes to editing your video on your mobile device, you're gonna need to download an app to get the job done. Now, while we'll be using an app called KineMaster, the tips and techniques that we go over should be able to be applied to the majority of mobile editing applications. So don't worry if your app's interface looks quite different than the one that you see in this video. That being said, let's just quickly go over why we chose KineApp as the app of choice for editing mobile video. KineApp really stands out among the vast majority of mobile editing apps, and that's really because it allows for multiple video and audio layers. The advantage of having multiple video layers is that you can have your underlying main footage of your video, and then you can just layer the B-roll shots on top of that, and it's a lot easier than having to cut back and forth between your main footage and your B-roll footage. It's a little hard to communicate here, but once you get into editing on your own mobile device, I think you'll be able to see why this functionality of KineMaster and a few other apps that offer this functionality really makes it just a lot nicer to edit on your phone. Now, when it comes to choosing your own app, if you don't go with KineMaster, just make sure that it can perform the basic editing functions of making cuts, adding titles, adding an audio track, and adding transitions. Pretty much anything that you envision having in your edit, just make sure your app can get that done for you. Okay, now that we've covered what app you might want to go with, let's just quickly go over some editing tips. First of all, just make sure your volume levels are good. So make sure your music isn't too loud, and if you have anybody talking in your video, make sure they're not too quiet. Just make sure the balance of your audio in your video is set up properly. In KineMaster, you can actually change the volume of a single clip throughout the duration of that clip, and that's really helpful when it comes to editing audio. Secondly, choose appropriate edit points in your video. So most likely, if you do have somebody talking in your video, you're gonna wanna cut things out. So when you have those cut points, make sure you're not leaving any dead space, either just before or just after the cut. Any kind of dead space when somebody's talking will stand out in your video and it won't look quite right. Besides that, when it comes to the edit points, just keep the pacing of your video up. So you don't want any obvious changes where it's going really fast and then a really long shot. You want to keep the pacing consistent and also fast enough to keep people engaged. The third tip when it comes to editing is just to make any necessary color and lighting changes in the app. So you can either make the shot brighter, darker, or if it's looking a bit too blue, you can make it a bit more orange, things like that. So just make sure everything looks nice and natural. That being said, of course, mobile video isn't of the highest quality, so you're only going to be able to do so much when you're adjusting the lighting and color, unless you're really going for a creative look and you want things to look really kind of wonky. But just be aware that you're not going to be able to adjust things too much when it comes to lighting and color. Okay, and the final tip for editing mobile video on your phone is to just pay attention to this concept of A-roll and B-roll. So A-roll constitutes the main footage of your video and the foundation of your video. If you are conducting an interview, that's probably going to be the main content or the A-roll of your video. And then the B-roll is anything on top of that, like cutaway shots to maybe that person walking down the street, things like that. And the technique here is to put together an edit that includes only the A-roll, and that ensures that your edit is going to play back in a smooth and logical way. And at that point, you can go back to the start and start adding in B-roll footage on top of your A-roll footage where it makes sense. Okay, that should cover everything to get you started on the right path in editing footage on your mobile device. This completes our instructional series on how to create great looking mobile video. Now that you have the basic tools and information, you can go ahead and create your next great looking video. You can also check out our website and our YouTube channel for lots of other great content like this. Thank you so much for your interest and good luck.